joining us today. This is the Congressional Family Business Caucus. I'll remind you all that it is a bi-partisan caucus to support family businesses in America, to educate around what family businesses are and what they aren't. Those family businesses generate 84%, 59% of the jobs in this country and 54% of the GDP. They are very, very important to this economy and the country. We represent all sides of the business, small, medium, and large, and all industries. So, again, we are facilitating this Congressional Family Business Caucus. Representative Schneider is kind of to be a co-chair of the caucus. And since he's here, I'd like him to come up and say a few words.
Thanks about the meeting I just came from, Corvo, which was an equipment manufacturer, which has nothing to do with anything, except that one of the people in the meeting was from a business that I actually, before this career, I was in a family business advisor, and I was on the board of advisors. She shared that the owner was now executive chairman and his son was now CEO. And I'm still kind of on a high from that. You know that the company makes it, in this case, to the third generation. You know how difficult this is. As Pat said, family businesses are one of the core engines that drive our economy. But more than just the economy, they drive our community. This business is not in my district, it's just south of my district, but they've been a cornerstone of their community in McHenry County now for into the third generation. And she also shares a manufacturing company that one of the issues 20 years ago when I was on the board was they couldn't get welders. And we worked on trying to resolve that. They're now training tradespeople, companies all around the country. They not only solve the problem for themselves, they solve the problem for other businesses in their industry, which is what family businesses do. As you all know, family business, if you're on a corporate board, public company, you're focused very much on quarterly profits. It's a very short-term focus. Short-term meaning quarter. Right now, my job's focused on an hour a day, so it's short-term relative. But you know, a family business, I used to always use the term more of an agrarian view. It's trying to look long to the future, to pass it from one generation to the next, and stay not just vital, alive as a company, but stay vibrant within a community. And that's, I think, one of the reasons I enjoyed working with family businesses so much. Why I was excited to see the caucus form here in Congress. I'll confess, I was surprised it didn't exist when I got here, but we're here now, and we're here talking about the issues of business. My family businesses face common with other businesses, for sure, but also there are businesses that are distinct within that. And that's why this caucus and these conversations are so important, to help members of Congress understand the issues.
Please explain your single greatest challenge as a family business, because that will help me call on you all as members of Congress come through. So we can start anywhere, in any direction. But for the 60, what is your single greatest challenge?
You're okay with that. Is it on?
They're not turning green.
Okay, so yeah.
It's on red.
Okay, so we're in the supply chain solutions business in the northeastern United States. About 4,000 people on our team. Turned 100 years old as a third and fourth generation family business on April 1st. So my colleague to the right is also in the transportation business, and we can both attest to the fact that only fools get into the truck. Big fools I found in there. I would say our greatest problem overall is Glenn Thompson. We're a target, and in today's world, the contingency fee basis is the pot at the end of the rainbow. And I think, and I'm a former lawyer, so I can bash the plaintiff's point. But elimination of contingency fees, loser pays, winners legal costs would take a lot of unnecessary litigation out of the court system. Probably have a lot of unemployed judges, and I make the analogy to education. I don't think taxpayers would stand still for a teacher being paid 35–40% of a student's lifetime earnings, yet in the tort world, that happens all the time.
That's one for follow.
Sure.
People in Washington understand what you're going through every single day. They get it.
Well, as the congressman said, there's a lot of lawyers in Congress, maybe too many, I think, is what he said. I would agree with that.
I sold my business to private equity 10 years ago. I run a family business center. So we have over 200 businesses and we run 30 groups. So every other month, we're sitting down and processing issues that these family businesses are having. I'd say the topic that keeps coming up most frequently since COVID has been uncertainty. Business is always uncertain, but COVID really started a chain of events that make it very difficult to run business. Obviously, shut down, COVID, even coming out of that, labor shortages, the uncertainty about it, and then supply chain became limited, and the prices spiraled, and now we've got high interest rates, even the things that are going on, Congress and the estate tax, that's going to expire, what's going to happen after that. So I think it creates a lot of stress and challenges that businesses are used to some extent, but it just seems to have a very aggressive amount of uncertainty in the last 2 years.
So one follow-up, is it easier to be a family business today or 10 years ago? Why?
I think it's always been challenging. Think about it. I started a business from scratch. So I think what some people don't realize is it takes a long time to make money in a business. Greg Collins' book, Flyway, look at some of the blockbuster names. They didn't really take off. They were behind the scenes for 10 years. So you give up a lot. And that was the prime of my earnings career when I decided to start a business. And for 10 years, I worked at Heinz for 7 years as an executive. 10 years, I got paid less, or paid myself less than I was getting paid at Heinz.
That's the catch-up.
Catch-up maker. Marketing manager. I got paid good money, and I said, I'm going to start a business. And I did whatever it took to get that business off the ground. But then the minute you start making money, you start paying taxes. And, I think sometimes you need to get some of that back because you spent 10 years, not making income. So you get taxed on, your profits. I was passed through. When I ended up selling the company years later, I got taxed on capital gain. And when I die, I pay a death tax. And so I think those things are challenging for family businesses. They always have been, but I don't think they've gotten any better. I think they've gotten worse. And then the other thing is regulations.
Ed, thank you for visiting my office earlier this year. We had a great visit. And Frank, thank you so much for the introduction and the opportunity to be here with you all. You're the backbone of the economy. I grew up in a small family business that's still going. My father's owned a tavern and restaurant for 44 years and still works there 365 days a year. So I understand where you're coming from in terms of the sacrifice, the risk, the hard work, and the pain that this economy's brought so many people. This inflation has crushed a lot of the American dream, and we're seeing more and more of our independent small family businesses go under because of Bidenomics. It's a frustration, and we need to find relief. We're looking to make sure that you have the opportunities, the agenda that we're putting forward as the House Republican Conference to hopefully give us a brighter future. We have to get this inflation under control. That's the most important thing that we can do for our kids and our grandkids to make sure that they have a future in this country.
I think there's a lot more attention here in Washington on the operations of the business rather than the estate planning side of it. Now and then when we wrestle with the estate tax, and that's something we wrestle with really every 5 or 10 years. There's some attention to passing it on. I serve on the Financial Services Committee, where my focus is on your access to capital, which is completely different from the question you asked. And I do think there's a real understanding of the role that small business plays in the economy. Not always borne out in policy, and of course shutting down the government isn't going to do any good.
So as the majority of family businesses in this country are S corporations, they're not typically C corporations, so they're pass-through entities. My question to both of you is, as a pass-through entity, when we get taxed, we are taxed on 100% of the profit of the business, regardless of whether or not we actually retain that for ourselves. If we reinvest it back into the company, we still have to pay those taxes. So in other words, as an S corp, as a family, we've always historically been a no, don't take on any debt, live within our means, we don't borrow, we reinvest in our own growth. But when we do that, it feels like we get punished because we're still taxed on the full portion that we show as profits. Can you answer if you think that that's fair? In other words, I'm not taking the money home to myself, I'm not going out and buying new cars and new houses, I'm reinvesting in the company, I'm putting that money into providing better wages, into being more competitive, or since COVID, God forbid, we're putting it into reserves so that if something similar to COVID would happen again, we now have a deeper bank of reserves to be able to support our employees through that difficult time. But just putting it aside that way, not lining our own bank accounts with it, we're still getting taxed on that. And my question to you, is that fair? Do you think that that's fair and appropriate?
Look, every tax is a problem. We have an income tax rather than a consumption tax. You talk about having a reserve for your business. I represent a lot of people who can't pay a $500 bill because they don't have a reserve. And I want to help your business, but I can't turn to somebody and say, pay more taxes on your wages so that we can have another reduction in taxes on businesses so that business can have a reserve for a business problem may come up.
Can you explain what your greatest challenge is?
I think the hard part is identifying one to speak to, right? I mean, certainly taxation, passing on the business. Our goal as a third generation family business, our aspiration is to pass it on to the next generation if they so choose to want to. And there are so many barriers to doing that, and it's not just the taxation piece, but there's the regulation piece also, and the over-regulation piece, and not recognizing that, it was talked about that when you put a policy in place to govern a C corp or a huge multinational, that trickles down and I believe, disproportionately impacts the small to mid-sized companies, which are the bulk of family businesses, and makes it that much harder for us to operate and do it in a way that we can survive. We're very similar in that we reinvest back into our business. We're not a family that lives outside of our means and doesn't and takes the money out. We continue to reinvest back into the business. We pay our employees excellent salaries. We pay excellent benefits. They can't get them anywhere else, and the costs just keep increasing and increasing. So, as an example, when Obamacare was passed, which in theory, right, great idea, let's offer medical coverage to people, right? We were already doing that. We were already giving our employees full medical coverage, but our premiums went up 30% in the year. And it makes it that much harder for us to be able to continue to absorb those costs and be a profitable business.
So I have two questions for you. I really don't know. Number one is your compensation, the same job, roughly the same job, higher in family business than it would be in a multinational?
Now, if any, my experiences, and I think research will show that people actually get paid often less in a family business than for a comparable job that they might get somewhere else. So I don't believe that I'm overpaid in any way. I would suggest that I'm actually
Not overpaid. I'm not speaking about you.
Well, yeah.
I'm talking about your people.
Oh, my employees.
I'm trying to figure out how to sell this.
Got it.
Are your employees paid better?
Yes, definitely.
Can you prove it?
Sure. I mean, we go through and do comp studies all the time, and we have a specific area that we pinpoint. We we always want to pay above the median.
Well, we've done research and surveyed, 46% of family businesses pay above average in terms of, 46% of family businesses pay above average in terms of wages and benefits.
And what percent pay below?
4%.
That's not a good number.
Well, above average, but that's above average, not average, so they would be below average or average.
This is a point to make to these members, that if you want your constituents compensated fairly, generously, you're more likely to have that happen in a family business than they are in a multinational. It's a great case to be made. Maybe making it, I don't know.
So the other case that you all have to remind them is 80% of family businesses operate as a pass-through entity. So you all talked about paying higher rates of tax than corporations who pay 21%, you're paying 37%. Most of them don't know what a pass-through is, and that 80% of you operate as a pass-through. So 80% of you are paying higher than corporations.
I mean, we're in healthcare, so we do medical case management and workers' compensation. So people who get injured on the job, your workers' comp insurance company will hire our company to send a nurse out and make sure that that individual gets back to work or reaches maximum medical improvement. So yes, I'd say on just on a broad scale, certainly the issue I already addressed with the congressman is one challenge, but just the general state of the economy is another challenge for us in that when there's a labor shortage, for example, since 2021, certainly in healthcare specifically because we need nurses to do the job, a labor challenge makes us, kind of has a ripple effect on our company. It places a higher demand on us to be even more competitive than we already are. So there's a lot of pressure to even increase compensation even more. There's a lot of pressure on services. We pride ourselves on being a premier provider, but everybody's required to do more with less from the labor shortage standpoint. That's certainly a challenge, but it also puts economic pressure on us because our customers are insurance companies. So in an economic crisis, our customers tend to tighten the reins, and so we're a service business, so we front the fee. So we pay for everything up front. We pay our nurses to do the job up front, but we don't often get paid. So in a normal situation, it might take 30 days for us to get paid. When there's economic crises, it can take 60 to 90 days for us to get paid. So we're carrying all of that as an expense for much longer than we should, which is again a financial strain on the business and requires us to have good reserves in place to run the business seamlessly.
Well, the short-term and long-term. Short-term, we're in a huge trucking recession. Started late last September. And I know people hope we're going to have soft landing. At least in my industry, it's hard. And it really fell off, not on a cliff, it did this. And boy, it's hurting. And so we put off capital purchases and other things, just watching cash flow. Everything you got to do.
Which means that the consequence of putting off capital purchases is,
Well, let's put it this way, not many people are buying as many trucks as they used to do, so they're going to, this is what's going to happen. They're going to lay people off. Then there's going to be some layoffs there. And what I'm afraid of in this recession, the full employment. As long as that keeps going, maybe this is going to be different than it has in the past. But if you start to see the layoffs, then we're heading hard. So that's a problem, but it'll change.
so I want you all, those of you taking notes, if you are, circle the word consequences and start and be able to explain it. 15 or 20 seconds. What are the consequences if a family business like yours is punished simply for being a family business, or you start to curtail or cut back? We need to articulate the consequences of this, so you get people on your side. So long term, greatest challenge?
Well, I think the greatest challenge for all of us. And by the way, Pat tells you, we're not all small businesses. We're not a huge business. We're complicated. Larger.
Are you first generation?
No, second.
Will there be a third generation?
There is a third generation there now.
And are they nervous about being able to provide a fourth generation?
I don't think so, but I will tell you this recession, we're learning some new lessons, and they are taking notice of this recession, what could mean to them long-term if things don't change. They will.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Frank, just thank you for the invitation, my friend. And I do mean Frank sincerely, many years. And I was so excited when he said he had a group that was going to speak to him. And Frank was going to ask, I was going to come. I really got excited when I heard it was family-owned businesses. Because that's the world I grew up in. My dad froze his retirement as a tool die maker after 15 years back from the Korean War. And he loved to hunt and fish, right? And so he built a retail, actually a retail wholesale operation literally in our front yard. And and started this small family-owned business and never hunted and fished again. Because he became a small business owner, 7 days a week, right? When the customer needs it, you got to be able to deliver it. And we did retail, we did some wholesale, we actually did a little bit of manufacturing when it came to, actually it was license holders that he sold all over the state of Pennsylvania. And so I was really thrilled, I'm really happy, Frank, when I found out who Frank actually wanted me to speak to, and to be able to be here to say thank you for being really being for the backbone of the American economy. The jobs that you create really are the economic backbone. And quite frankly, they're not, what you do is not easy. And quite frankly, it's really hard right now because of the regulatory environment that we're in. I always say that, there are a lot of things that go into running a successful business and a successful family business. And some of the important things, obviously, are, what you provide or what you produce. Location is always influential, right? And it should be. We should be putting our small businesses first. That and family businesses, let me just deal with another one that could expire here, and that's the death tax. I have constituents, I have one constituent in particular, they've been in the oil and gas business since shortly after Edwin Drake drilled oil in that area in 1859. And during the lifetime of that company, of course they didn't have the heritage tax and death tax back then, but eventually came into play. This one family has bought their business back from the federal government at least 3 times in the passing of a generation. That's wrong. There's just a long, lengthy list of things that guide me, and that's why I support abolishing that death tax, simplifying regulations.
How can I'm just going to speak to the choir now that you've spoken, but how does a family business compete with a Walmart or a Dick's coming into your father's company when, if you're the next generation, 40% of that value of that business goes to the government? Your father, if he'd even stayed in business and been successful, would probably have been put out of business because of that tax. And some people say, well, you just buy insurance for that. Well, insurance isn't free. It's just another way of investment. And it's really hard to think about keeping a family business.
So the Statue of Liberty, where is she made? France. Yet we think of her as American, right? Here's what's weird. She's French. You see her holding up her hand with the torch. I think of the French and think something more like this. I'm going to laugh at the end of the day. This is the Statue of Liberty at daybreak. This is a new dawn, a new beginning. I want you to have visualization of everything that you do. I know that you have it in your business. You need it for this effort. So people see the family. And to me, the 3rd generation is what grabs it. And the 4th generation is awesome. Grandparent, the parent, and the child together in the same photo. That is, by definition, the American dream. Even those who never had the opportunity, grandparents who were never able to work with their children, they appreciate the idea of the family. And by the way, the #1 family business of all, the one that's most respected, is which one? Which industry? Guess. Non-manufacturing, please, no. Which one? Farming, that's number 2. And I was waiting for someone to mention something to the chairman. He's the chairman of the Agriculture Committee, so he's pretty significant. The most respected, appreciated family business is? You should run for Congress. Restaurant, right here. They're the first to work in the morning, they're the last to get home at night, and they're the last to get paid. And everyone knows how hard they work. You actually get to meet them, you get to know them, and you appreciate them. You get to meet their children. And the idea in their photographs of grandpa there, the wife, the husband, the whole family works in the restaurant. And I realize that that's not the size of people here, but that is the vision of a successful family business. Next slide. Next slide. Keep going, I'll punch through it. So this is in order. There's going to be 9 of these. This is in order what the public wants. And I'll do this very quickly and then I'll take whatever questions. Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you in about 5 minutes to close. They're tired of rhetoric. So you know, and so I explained this to you. The reason why I jumped up, this is no reflection on a former congressman who's sitting over next to me. They come up and they deliver speeches. And if I just kept silent, if I just sat in this chair, no one would have asked a single question. They would have spoken to you for 10 or 12 minutes and would have left. So I have to do this. If I don't interrupt with them, you don't get a chance to go back and forth. So I know that I'm probably a little bit rude, but I was rude to give your voice the chance to be heard. And for those of you who spoke, thank you very much. They're tired of rhetoric and they want results. And that's what's happening. And that's one of the reasons why there's such a demand for a third party. They don't think Donald Trump delivered what he promised. They don't think Joe Biden's delivered what he promised. And they want something different. Number 2, they don't want ideology. They actually want a problem solver, someone like the people in this room. You have a threat to your business. You have to figure it out, or that business doesn't exist. Problem solver is the second highest value. Third, but you don't seem to know what it is right now. If you watch Fox News, I know he voted for it. If you watch MSNBC, the only news network with more letters in its name than viewers, I know he voted for it. We're not seeking to be informed, we're seeking to be affirmed. And so the truth has gone out the window. Before, do you realize that 1 out of 4 people in this country have trouble paying their bills at the end of each week? I bet that's no one in this room. 25%, 23% is the average. That's a recession, or something worse. And they can't make ends meet. That also accounts for so much of the anger. A couple more up here. They believe that everyone up here is corrupt. They believe that everyone in Washington, D.C. is in the pockets of the lobbyists and the special interest groups, which is why a session like this is so important. We had a whole bunch of members that are signed up here that did not come because of the markups. The only reason why they had the markups is because of what happened last night. Last night, the etiquette of Congress came apart. And actually, I'm going to hand the microphone to you for 1 second. Was it this bad when you were a member of Congress?
Well, I should have been charged of that. I will say this about Frank real quickly, which you already know, but he absolutely does have huge respect and a big following on Democrat and Republican members because of what he said. And it's interesting to see Brad Sherman and you go back and forth. I will tell you this story. It was always partisan. I came from the state legislature. And in the state legislature, you kind of had a third really hard-right purist and a third hard-left purist, and then you had a governing coalition in the middle. And it was a strong, responsible governing coalition. So I assumed Congress would be the same way, but when I got here in 1993, I was surprised to see I was totally wrong on that. It is very partisan, but it's nothing compared to what it is today. So, yes. Frank, it's absolutely, and I'll give you one quick example. You should not have given a politician a microphone. But
I have been asked by Congressman Sam Farr, who you remember, he's a California member, very liberal, but he's not in Congress anymore. They just named a building after me, and he reached out to me and he said, I would love for you to come give the keynote at that event. And it had to do with agriculture, because agriculture does tend to be a little more bipartisan, but I don't think any of these members will be asking somebody from the opposite party to come to an honor that they're receiving. And I'm very tickled to death, and I said, hell yeah, I'll be there.
So thanks, Frank. Appreciate it as always. Amazing job. Thank you, Jennifer, for helping Frank put this on with us. Thank you to the Brownstein Law Firm team. Thank you to Squire Patton Boggs team. All been amazing. Thank you to Jack Kingston, who has helped grow this 27-member caucus. I went to 5 fundraisers with him in one night. That's what Jack does. To talk to members about this caucus. As Frank said, it is a really, really important caucus. It's too bad it hasn't been founded a long time ago, but we're here now and we're going to make this happen. So I challenge you, like Frank did, go home, talk to your members of Congress, talk to members of Congress you don't even know. I don't care. We've identified 100 members of Congress that both sides of the aisle that come from family business owners. We need to grow the caucus. That's how we grow your voice. So please let us be your voice. Talk to them, talk to everybody you know, get all your business owners engaged in this caucus, and then let me know how we can help you. So again, thank you all for coming. Really appreciate your support and your time.